Thank you, RJ. And welcome to Unity Spiritual Center, Pflugerville. Our subject today is love. And I have to be honest with you, I spent a lot of time contemplating the word love and what does it mean. Anybody agree it has lots of meanings? And over in the Greek language, there's different languages for different types of love. So we're dealing with a conversation where there's ambiguities. And I've really been digging into that. And in our popular world, I've come to realize that love is, if you take care of me, I'm going to love you. Or if you do what I like, I'm going to love you. And so love becomes what you do for me, not necessarily an energy other than from myself. And if you go into the Course of Love and the Course of Miracles, both of them, they identify state of being as either things are in fear or love. And it says you can only be in one or the other. So that's a totally different idea than what you do for me creates return. Now, if you stop and think about it, I can remember back in teenage years, anybody remember sloppy puppy love? And it's like, oh, okay, and then it went away. Okay, or I was hurt. Anybody ever been hurt by love? So how can you be hurt by love? Okay, so the word love has a great ambiguity in lots of different conversations. So I decided we need to look at what is love. And what's interesting, I have a kick out of this. I have an automatic grammar and punctuation program at home. Anybody familiar with that on your computer? Okay. And
a manual sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes it's manual. But I realized that love in the modern world has different conversations. But if I capitalize the word love, what have I got? And I've got spiritual conversation of an energy that we call love. So how do we do with it? Now, we're getting involved in Valentine's Day, and that's St. Valentine's, and it's got into all kinds of things. Kathleen brought in goodies on the back shelf back there, and some of them are hearts, and of course they're red and pink. And those are all the symbols of love. Symbols of love. But what is love? It's a conversation that's fascinating. And if I look at the capital L, it has to be a spiritual conversation. Because, and again, me, talk a lot about, and we have been involved in the Course of Love and the Course of Miracles. And I stop and think about there's either love or fear. So if it's not love, it's fear. And the popular definition for love is, if I love you, you'll take care of me. So if you don't take care of me, I go into fear. So there's a real mixture between the two energies. And we know from quantum physics and the idea of taking these ideas today that Jesus was speaking about 2,000 years ago, there's an energy of God that is love. And the language of God is love. So what is love with a capital L? And the Bible has an interesting, is it up? Yeah. Though I speak with the tongues of men and angels and have not love in my heart, I am become as a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. So that's the first verse in 1 Corinthians 13. Okay? And there's a lot of stuff in there. And I would like to bring some of it out. But anybody agree? I don't know about you, but when somebody gets too sloppy with me, I love you, I go, okay. Yes or no? These are things we don't want to look at. And so what is love? Love is the energy of God expressing from my heart. Now, the domain of the mind is the ego or fear. The domain of the heart is love or God. Okay, so stop and think about that. We're in this balance all the time, and we're going back and forth between that. So it says here, though I speak with the tongues of men and angels and have not love in my heart, I become as a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. So, in other words, I can be really good at what I do. I can tell you I love you over and over again. I can tell the world I love you over and again. But if it's not out of my heart, it's a bunch of noise. Anybody familiar with that idea? Okay, so what am I doing? What am I professing? What do I really believe? Comes down to, am I talking from my heart or my mind? And am I in what the Greeks call agape love, which is love for everybody? Now, it is interesting, and I'm going to go into 1 Corinthians 13. Everybody ready for this? Matter of fact, I'm going to go a little bit into 12. And I'm going to make noises. It stayed in. Okay? And I'm actually going to go to 12, 1 Corinthians 12. I'm going to go 21. The eye cannot say to, this is about talking about the body and giving a reference to love. So it says here, the eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you, nor can the head say to the feet, I have no need of you. But rather, those members of the body which are considered to be delicate are necessary. And then it goes on and says all kinds of things there. There may be no discord in the body, but they may care one for another. All members should be equal. So here's an idea. Everything in my body is important. Anybody agree? I've had a little bit of sciatica stuff, so my legs don't work as well as they should. Okay, now I'm annoyed at it. Okay. So what kind of energy, being annoyed at my legs, am I giving my legs? So think about that. Okay, so where are we sending love and where are we sending the other stuff? So love is the energy of God. And if I look at that, let me go on here. So when one member is in pain, all members suffer with it in pain. I was just talking about a spiritual community. Okay? So we are all together no matter what. And then it goes on and says, so what? Now you are the body of Christ and members in your respective places. Okay? So we're all members of the energy we call the Christ, which is the God within, the Father within, he doeth the work. It's the Father's good pleasure to give me the kingdom. So there's a part of each one of us that is in the body that is taking care of everything. So the point here is love comes from that spirit within me. Now, where is it? Within me. Which means all of me. That's the point that's being made here. In other words, I can't decide my right arm is annoyed, so I'm going to get rid of it, right? So I have to love my right arm. And it says in the more delicate parts, you're supposed to love that. I'm not going to get into defining what the delicate parts are. But the idea behind it is, you are a complete being from head to toe. And the first step is to love ourselves. Okay? Now, who's the rest? This is saying, okay, that we're all one in consciousness. So who should I love? See, spirit, love is from spirit. Love is an energy that I create. And we say about open the heart. But if I'm going to give love to you, anybody agree I have to acknowledge that I am love? Okay? All parts of me. Even that cotton-picking right leg that bothers me. Okay? So what are we doing? What are we doing in love? So love is unconditional. Because if I'm spirit and you're spirit, we're all one spirit. So our job is to love each other unconditionally. Now, do we do that? No. My next door neighbor doesn't like me. How can you love a next door? Doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, do you know that I have people around me that have different colors? And so we bring the humanness into who we are, and it negates love in the true spiritual sense. Okay? Now, Uh, I encourage you to read chapter 13, it's 1 Corinthians 13. So I'm going to go on. And then it goes on and on here. And though I have the gift of prophecy and all knowledge, and though I have all faith, so I can remove mountains. Can you imagine that? I'm strong enough and powerful enough and special enough to remove mountains. But if I'm not doing it from love, I don't have love in my heart. So where does love begin? In the heart. Now, we all have a heart that pumps blood. Agree? Okay, now, that's not the heart that we're talking about. The heart is that place in you where God is. Okay, now, that's called a focus point. When we teach meditation, there's a focus point, and most of us get involved in focusing in the heart, which is the ultimate energy state, because it's halfway between all the flesh shaking. There's also some people use the pineal gland in the middle of the brain that look at the function. The truth is, God is everywhere present within our body. Okay? The kingdom of heaven is where? Within. So, our job is to love the Spirit within us. And I want you to take a minute and get this. You are geniuses. You are created in the image and after the likeness of God, and we're told the Spirit of God is within us. So you're a master of the universe. Everybody pat yourself on the back. Go ahead. Do it. And yet, how often do we talk not good about ourselves? Okay? So the first step to love is to do what? Love you. And we sing, I am complete and whole, just as I am. I am free. Are you? Have you accepted who you are yet? I'm asking, have you accepted Jesus? Yeah. It's bigger than that. There's a truth here that you are the embodiment of the Christ. You got the same possibilities that Jesus did. As a matter of fact, he told you that in John 14. These things I do, ye shall do, and even greater things. So why don't you love yourself? So the first rule is love who? Self. And it doesn't matter next door or down the street or that guy that cuts you off or, the lady that broke your heart or male or whatever. Okay, we are all one in that conversation. We control the outcomes in our life by what we think. And the word love is the energy of consciousness of who we are. And have you ever noticed when you say, I'm a little bit uneasy about XYZ happens? Okay, so the kingdom of heaven is within. So I'm going back to love. And what is love? And love is the awareness of who we really are as a child of God. It always amazes me that we use the word child of God. And I hear people use it. What does that mean? See, the kingdom of it's all full of that stuff. So I really don't know. I should have looked up the history of St. Valentine. Anybody know? See, we make up stories that sound good. And then the popular words get, well, we all love. Okay, good. Is it a capital L or a small L? And are there conditions behind the love? And do I put up with somebody just because it's convenient? Or do I put up with somebody because they keep me happy no matter what? It's the love conversation that comes from the heart and it's from the Christ that you are. And that love energy is what creates the life. See, I'm firmly convinced that we are all innately Christ. Okay? When you were born with all of the code for the Garden of Eden consciousness. I know I go there, but that's who you are. And we have allowed the world code to overwhelm us and get all the junk. And yet the words of love are appreciate. What are the words of love? I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Okay? And the other words I'm not going to go into. So what am I thinking? What am I projecting? And please love yourself. Okay? I really got a kick out of Randy hugging people, okay? Anybody agree we're herders here? Because we know that Christ was within us, and that energy is energy that transfers itself. So, I keep looking for ways to get you to understand, and for me to understand. Chris, tell me, anybody agree we have to renew that once in a while, every day when we get up? But you are a child of God. So why don't you love yourself unconditionally? You know, why do we denigrate ourselves? Okay? And why do we even, I get.
Why do you assume we're doing that?
Because now Madeline tells me that I need to talk positive, okay? But I see it, Chris, I do. Okay? Now understand that I am also going through these things. But I have people call for prayer. Okay? And my job is to see the Christ in everything. Okay, so why can't that individual do that also? Okay? That's what happens to me. It's called a psychic load if you're familiar with that conversation, which is interesting. And we don't need to go there, but it's a good question. It is. But why? The troubles of the world right now are because we don't really understand love, in my opinion. Okay.
I want to celebrate the degree to which everybody here is already loving themselves.
Okay. Anybody want to comment about that?
I have days where I'm not that way about myself.
Yeah.
And I know
that.
we have interaction with a lot of people and I hear them talk. So I just want to, the statement that you made is maybe one that you are seeing, which is wonderful, that people are not degrading themselves. However, in my world, I see it.
Anybody else? It's an interesting conversation, Valerie. So you see, this is a conversation. This is an important conversation. It really is.
I know that whenever Chris walks through the door, I'm going to try to do this without crying. The love that you give, the energy level with which you walk through that door, I feel that you're working it in your life and that you've figured out some magnificent things and that you live your love. And it touches me.
Yeah.
And I could see where if we all were able to operate at that vibrational level for most of the day, can you imagine the shift that we would see in this world? It's beautiful, Chris. It is just amazing. And I love this teaching because it's like, you know, you've obviously got some tools in your life that you're using. And your belief structure about the truth of who you are and the truth of who everybody that you come in contact with is amazing. And that's why we're here. That's why we're here, is to emulate what Chris does, to love ourselves and believe in ourselves and to not listen to the chatter in our brain or not to listen to media, or as women, you know, we don't need all the facial potions. We don't need all the, you know, yeah, maybe we like them because maybe we like to look a little bit better, but you know, what stories are we buying into? What are we telling ourselves? What do we believe about ourselves, and what do we believe about others? And having love be that foundational thing that we're living from as we navigate the world. So thank you for being here.
Yep. I begin this day with love in my heart. Okay? And that's the conversation we're talking about. Okay? I see another hand out of the corner of my eye.
I learned that sometimes the body needs to hear it. So we're going to be finishing the Louise Hay's book, How to Heal Your Life, this next week. Tuesday. And so the thing that I read that book, I don't know how many times. And the thing that I have found is that sometimes our body needs to hear it. So if I say it out loud when I'm washing dishes or driving and stuff, and I say it a lot, I love and approve of myself.
Yeah.
I am worthy. The body hears it. It needs the liver, the pancreas, our bones need to hear that we love ourselves.
This is the idea. See, I love my body. Okay?
Yeah. And so when your body hears it, and situations sometimes are not good, right? Something happens, somebody gets upset, whatever. But I keep affirming to myself in the middle of the mess, I love myself. And sometimes I just say quietly to myself. One time, my son and he was upset. And I just kept affirming, I love myself. I love myself. And I would tell him that I loved
See,
him.
that's part of the conversation we're dealing with.
And we were driving in the car, and before we knew it, we were laughing. So when you're in the situation, you say it. I love myself. And something, I cannot explain what it is, but divinity takes over. We're not in control. We give it back to divinity, and we let go and let God be the driver. And that came from Barbara Stevens in Tuesday night class.
God bless her.
And so now, every time something's going on, I tell her, thank you for sharing that in class, because I use that a lot. Let go and let God be the driver.
Good. Somebody else. I want to go back to Chris. Oh,
I was
there's
just
Sue.
I was going to say, I do have that critical chatter a lot, but not near as much as I used to. Years ago, it used
See,
to really be bad.
That's the learning.
But I don't have that negative chatter when I'm in this room with these people. I don't have it.
Now you're understanding the secret.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay? And the idea is to carry, and Chris and B are talking about that it's what do I start with? And unfortunately, criticism, condemning, and complaining are endemic in our culture. Yes? Okay? I mean, if it's a hot day, everybody's complaining it's hot. So what? And that's the idea. Chris wants to talk again.
Mind has a very strong protective function,
Yep.
and I'm glad for that. I want to be protected. Where I am in my journey is I want my heart to also be able to embrace the mind and to love it and welcome it for how it's helped
See,
me.
now you're talking, the Course of Love calls that wholeheartedness. In other words, the mind and the heart are connected so that they talk each. In other words, the mind is there to give us ideas.
I think it's interesting how once you become, love feels like such an ethereal thing. And I love how you talked about sometimes we put conditions on that, we put expectations.
It's what we call love in today's world.
But then when I think about, okay, what's the true meaning of love? It's action, right? It's Madeline saying, or reminding, like being careful about your words. What words do you use? It's Tommy and Randy showing up at RJ's to help build a new studio. It's Terry calling,
making sure I was appreciated for her birthday.
Yeah. It's Terry calling me, hey, you look kind of tired at church service. How are you doing? It's all those ways that we show up for each other, that when we see a need in someone, that we're like, okay, how do I show up for that person? And it starts with, loving yourself, being kind with yourself, forgiving yourself. And then when we, I think the key is like when you figure that out internally for yourself, then you're able to offer that to other people without expectation of what you're going to get back.
Yes, and part of me, just to go back to Chris's point, part of me is, frankly, I grew up in a very fundamentalist household. So what was I told as a child? You're not good enough. Go ahead.
To me, love starts with acceptance, because when you accept yourself, then you can accept everyone else.
Yes.
And so for me, the key to true love, when you get away from when you get away from conditional love and all the rest of it,
Yes.
because if you don't accept yourself, how do you love yourself? And once you can accept yourself, then you can accept everyone else, wherever they may be in that moment.
So we're thank you. And that's the modeling. Our job is to become that. We don't have to go out and knock doors, or we don't have to, other than be that model. Thank you. Beautiful. Okay. And criticism in the world today is, again, endemic. So what are we doing? And one of the ideas in working with people is to praise them, not criticize them. So in other words, if we want behavior change, we don't harp on the behavior that's wrong. We look for what's right in the individual and praise that, which is this combination of love. So all I'm saying is we are a community. We are here to love each other and love myself and make that choice, which is back to the word acceptance. See, I have to make a choice. We all have to make a choice. And no matter what occurs, it's something good in it that I'm learning from. But the kingdom of heaven is where? Within. God bless me. Look at what we just said. The kingdom of heaven is within you. We have a lot of heavens right here. And it's learning through prayer, meditation, and the work to reach that point, because our minds are trained otherwise. Okay? That's my point. So I love you. Completely and wholly. And I know you love yourself. Thank you. Amen. Did you understand?